Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I am Deja B. I want to say thank you to my subscribers, and those that have been watching. Today I will be sharing the top 5 haunted dark history stories. As you know, I will post new content 1 to 2 times a week. And, if you're a big fan of creepy, scary, and history stories, I believe I have it here. So, with all that said, sit back, relax, and stay away from those dark corners.
Number 5.
In the summer of 1971, at Stanford University, Dr. Philip Zimbardo embarked on a controversial and groundbreaking psychological study known as the Stanford Prison Experiment. The study aimed to explore the psychological effects of power and authority within a simulated prison environment. Zimbardo carefully selected 24 participants, all psychologically stable, and divided them into 2 groups, prisoners and guards. The volunteers were assigned roles through a simple coin toss. Among the volunteers were Michael, a college student with a passion for psychology, and Alex, a philosophy major seeking adventure. As the experiment began, the participants quickly adapted to their roles. The guards, wielding newfound authority, began to assert their dominance over the prisoners. They enforced strict rules, subjected the prisoners to humiliating tasks, and even used psychological tactics to break their spirits. Michael, one of the prisoners, soon found himself grappling with the psychological impact of the situation. He couldn't help but question the ethics of the experiment, even as he tried to fulfill his role. He confided in Alex, a guard, and they secretly discussed the ethical concerns the experiment had raised. As days turned into weeks, the situation within the simulated prison escalated beyond anyone's expectations. Guards became increasingly abusive, and prisoners suffered from anxiety and despair. Some prisoners even developed psychosomatic symptoms. Zimbardo, seeing the experiment spiraling out of control, decided to intervene. The experiment was prematurely terminated, and the participants were released from their roles. Michael and Alex, now former prisoners and guards, shared their concerns with Zimbardo. In the aftermath of the Stanford Prison Experiment, the participants struggled to come to terms with the psychological toll it had taken on them. Michael and Alex, in particular, faced lingering guilt and anxiety about their roles. As the years passed, Michael and Alex pursued careers in psychology and philosophy, respectively. They used their experiences in the Stanford Prison Experiment to advocate for ethical considerations in psychological research, vowing to prevent such a dark chapter from repeating itself in the realm of academia. Shadows of the Mind, the Stanford Prison Experiment, is a story that delves into the ethical complexities of human experimentation and the profound impact it can have on the lives of those involved. It serves as a reminder of the need for responsible and ethical research in the field of psychology and the enduring consequences of power and authority in any context.
Number 4.
In 1945, the small town of Lund, in Sweden, was home to the Vipholm State Institution, a facility for individuals with intellectual disabilities. It was here that the unethical Vipholm experiment would unfold, casting a dark shadow over the pursuit of scientific knowledge. Dr. Einar Leinfelder, a respected dentist and researcher, was eager to explore the link between sugar consumption and tooth decay. Armed with a grant and an unethical ambition, he initiated the Vipholm experiment, which involved using mentally disabled residents as unwitting subjects. The experiment aimed to prove that sweets and sticky toffees, in particular, were the primary culprits behind dental decay. Dr. Leinfelder and his team designed a horrific regimen, forcing participants to consume excessive amounts of these sugary treats daily, with little regard for their oral health. As the months went by, the participants suffered the cruel effects of their forced sugar consumption. Painful cavities, gum disease, and tooth loss became a part of their daily lives. Their pleas for relief were ignored, as they were regarded as mere tools in the name of science. Among the participants was a resilient man named Carl, who, despite his intellectual disability, recognized the injustice of the experiment. He secretly documented his experiences and those of his fellow residents, crafting a hidden journal that chronicled their suffering. As the experiment continued, reports of the residents' deteriorating oral health began to leak to the public, causing outrage and condemnation. Concerned citizens, along with ethical researchers, rallied against Dr. Leinfelder and the experiment's cruel methods. Under mounting pressure and public scrutiny, the Vipholm experiment was finally terminated in 1953. By then, it had irrevocably damaged the oral health of the participants, leaving them with a legacy of pain and suffering. In the aftermath of the experiment, Carl's secret journal served as critical evidence in the legal battle that ensued. Dr. Leinfelder and his team faced charges of inhumane treatment and unethical conduct. The experiment highlighted the importance of ethical considerations in scientific research. The Vipholm experiment left an indelible mark on the history of medical research, a somber reminder of the length some individuals will go to in the name of science. It ultimately led to the establishment of stringent ethical guidelines for human experimentation, ensuring that such horrors would not be repeated. The bitter truth: the Vipholm experiment is a harrowing tale of scientific ambition gone awry, illustrating the devastating consequences when the pursuit of knowledge lacks ethical boundaries and compassion for the subjects involved. It serves as a reminder of the importance of protecting the rights and well-being of vulnerable individuals in the name of science.
Number 3.
The heart of the Great Plains, where vast expanses of prairie stretched as far as the eye could see, a harsh winter storm was brewing. January 12, 1888, began like any other day for the families living on the isolated farms of Nebraska and the Dakota Territory. The children, ready to trek to their one-room schoolhouses, and the adults went about their daily chores, tending to livestock and trying to eke out a living from the unforgiving land. Little did they know that this day would be etched into history as the day of the children's blizzard. The morning started with a deceptive calm. The sky was clear, and the sun shone brightly, giving the illusion of a mild winter day. However, the air held an unusual chill, and the temperature plummeted throughout the morning. As the children walked to school, they noticed the distant signs of the approaching tempest. A faint, ominous hue began to obscure the horizon, and the wind picked up, sending chills down their spines. The unsuspecting schoolteachers saw the same signs and knew they had to act quickly. They rushed to dismiss their students before the storm could intensify. But it was too late. Within moments, the weather took a vicious turn. A howling wind carried the powdery snow with it, blinding everyone in its path. The temperature dropped rapidly, and the children, miles from home, were trapped in the relentless blizzard. Fear gripped the hearts of the youngsters as they struggled to find their way. Visibility was reduced to almost nothing, and their cries were lost in the raging wind. The storm was so fierce that even the bravest children couldn't forge a path home. Many tried to take refuge in the nearest shelter they could find, often little more than haystacks or abandoned farm buildings. Some were lucky enough to stumble upon the cabins of neighbors, who offered warmth and solace. For those who couldn't find shelter, the blizzard was merciless. Many children perished in the bitter cold, frozen to death as they huddled together, their small, frail bodies unable to withstand the fierce elements. The storm raged on for hours, as parents and townsfolk ventured out to search for the missing children, their faces numb with dread. When the blizzard finally subsided, it revealed a heart-wrenching scene. The vast prairie was littered with the frozen bodies of the innocent. Families grieved for lost sons and daughters, communities mourned the loss of cherished children, and the entire region was left scarred by the devastation of the children's blizzard. In the aftermath of the tragedy, stories of heroism emerged. Teachers who had tried to lead their students to safety, even at the cost of their own lives, became legendary figures. Families who had welcomed stranded children into their homes, sharing their meager provisions, became symbols of resilience and community spirit. The children's blizzard of 1888 was a brutal reminder of the unforgiving nature of the plains. It forever changed the lives of those who survived, leaving an indelible mark on the history and collective memory of the region. It served as a stark reminder of the sacrifices and hardships endured by the pioneers who settled this land, and it reinforced the bonds of family and community in the face of adversity.
If you like what you have seen and heard so far, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Let's carry on to number 2.
Number 2.
In the hushed corners of history, where shadows linger and whispers are born, there exists a disturbing and controversial claim that stains the legacy of a prominent name. The tale begins in the heart of the African Congo in 1888, a time when the world was draped in the heavy shroud of colonial ambitions. James S. Jameson, the great-great-grandson of John Jameson, the revered founder of the Jameson Irish Whiskey Company, was a man whose reputation was as intoxicating as the spirits his family distilled. However, it is in the hidden folds of his past that a dark secret unfurls, challenging the very essence of his character. According to sources buried in the annals of history, Jameson found himself entangled in a web of moral decay during an ill-fated expedition to the Congo. The air was thick with humidity and tension as the young heir ventured deep into the heart of a land teeming with secrets and shadows. It was amidst this dense jungle that he encountered a slave trader peddling human lives as if they were mere commodities. As the controversial claim goes, James S. Jameson, driven by a twisted desire or perhaps a macabre curiosity, made a shocking transaction. In exchange for 6 handkerchiefs, he acquired a 10-year-old girl from the clutches of the slave trader. The girl, a fragile soul ensnared in a cruel game of fate, became an unwitting pawn in a narrative of darkness and privilege. The claim, however disturbing, is met with skepticism by some historians who question the authenticity of the accounts. It was said that Jameson returned with a 10-year-old girl to a village to be eaten by cannibals. It was said that Jameson told the cannibals, "This is a present from a white man who desires to see her eaten." The cannibals then tied her to the tree. One of them then stabbed her twice in the belly. The girl reportedly made no sound during her execution. After succumbing to her injuries, the 3 men completely dismembered the girl's body. While this was all going down, Jameson sketched the entire event. He completed 6 images that depicted the ritual. Later on, Jameson added watercolors to the pictures and presented them to the chiefs for approval. Jameson later died during the expedition of a fever at Boyoma Falls, then called Stanley Falls, on August 3, 1888. I guess karma is a bitch. Although he never returned to his home country, he wrote a letter to his wife while he was dying. The truth, veiled in the mists of time, remains elusive, leaving the tale of James S. Jameson and the 10-year-old girl suspended in the realms of speculation and moral ambiguity. Whether a chilling reality or a concoction of half-truths, the story serves as a haunting reminder of the depths to which humanity can sink when cloaked in the darkness of exploitation and privilege. The echoes of that disturbing claim continue to reverberate through the corridors of history, urging us to confront the uncomfortable truths that lie hidden in the folds of our collective past.
Since we are close to Thanksgiving, I thought I should share some Thanksgiving facts. So here is my top 1 Thanksgiving story.
Number 1.
This is for educational purposes only.
In the early 17th century, on the eastern shores of what would later become the United States, a story unfolded that is rarely told during the season of Thanksgiving. It was a time of colonization, suffering, and the clash of cultures that forever altered the destiny of the Native American people. The story began with the arrival of the Mayflower in 1620, carrying a group of English pilgrims seeking religious freedom. These newcomers established the Plymouth colony, unaware of the complex and diverse indigenous societies that had thrived in the region for thousands of years. As winter descended upon the fledgling colony, the Pilgrims faced hunger, illness, and death. They were ill-equipped to endure the harsh New England winter, and their contact with the local Wampanoag tribe would prove pivotal in their survival. The Native Americans, led by Chief Massasoit, showed the Pilgrims how to plant and harvest crops in the unfamiliar soil, providing them with food and sustenance. In 1621, after a successful harvest, the Pilgrims organized a feast to give thanks, inviting Massasoit and his people to join them. This gathering is often romanticized as the first Thanksgiving, moment of harmony between the settlers and the indigenous people. But the true history was much darker. The relationship between the Plymouth colonists and the Wampanoag was fraught with tension. The colonists continued to encroach on Native American land, disrupt their way of life, and introduce diseases that decimated their population. Land was stolen, treaties broken, and conflicts arose. The first Thanksgiving was not a peaceful and harmonious feast between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans, but a political and diplomatic event that aimed to secure a military alliance. This was not an isolated incident but part of a broader pattern of violence and displacement. The Pilgrims did not land in Plymouth by accident but chose the site because it was already cleared and cultivated by the Patuxet tribe, who had been wiped out by a plague brought by European traders. The Pilgrims were not religious refugees fleeing persecution, but separatists who wanted to establish a theocratic colony that enforced strict moral codes and punished dissenters. The Native Americans who attended the first Thanksgiving were not invited guests but outnumbered the Pilgrims by more than 2 to 1. They brought most of the food, including deer, corn, and shellfish. The relationship between the Pilgrims and the Native Americans deteriorated soon after the first Thanksgiving, leading to wars, massacres, and land theft. The Pequot War of 1637, that resulted in the death of hundreds of Pequot men, women, and children, and the enslavement of many survivors. The national holiday of Thanksgiving was not established until 1863, by President Abraham Lincoln, as a way to unify the country during the Civil War. However, this was also a time of brutal violence and oppression against Native Americans, such as the Dakota War of 1862 and the Sand Creek Massacre of 1864. Many Native Americans and their allies view Thanksgiving as a day of mourning and protest, rather than a day of celebration and gratitude. They hold rallies, marches, and ceremonies to honor their ancestors and raise awareness of their ongoing struggles for justice and sovereignty. As time passed, Thanksgiving became more symbolic of the colonial narrative than a true celebration of unity. In recent years, as more people delved into the dark history of Thanksgiving, a growing movement emerged to acknowledge and address the historical injustices. Some called for the holiday's cancellation, while others advocated for a different approach, Thanksgiving that honors the resilience and contributions of Native American communities. Communities began to hold discussions, invite Native American leaders, and establish cultural exchange programs that aimed to rectify past wrongs and educate the public about the complex history of the holiday. They sought to make Thanksgiving a time for reflection, reconciliation, and a deeper understanding of the Native American experience. This new approach aimed to acknowledge the shadows of Thanksgiving while shedding light on the enduring strength of Native American cultures and communities, turning a holiday marked by a dark history into a path toward healing, unity, and truth, and working towards a more inclusive and just future.
Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below. Thank you.